Once you turn 18, in the eyes of the law, you are now an adult. Even though it might not feel like it, you still can't legally drink alcohol or purchase tobacco products, but you are legally an adult once you turn 18. This segment focuses on housing, specifically renting a property such as a house or an apartment. So a lease is a contract that sets out the conditions for renting the property. Most landlords will require you to sign a lease. It is very important that you always get the lease in writing, and after you have signed the lease, make sure you get a copy and keep it in a safe place or an electronic copy. Terms of a lease agreement may vary depending on the landlord, but they're usually for a period of 6 months or a year. The lease will keep the landlord from raising your rent or telling you that you need to move out tomorrow, things like that. Some landlords do a month-to-month lease, meaning you are only renting the property for a month at a time. In that situation, the landlord has to give you notice if they plan to raise your rent or if they want you to move out. Breaking the lease means breaking some term of the contract. Usually it's wanting to move out before the end of the lease. And the lease will usually give you instructions on what to do, but you normally have to give the landlord notice of at least 30 days if you're planning to move out before the end of your lease agreement. Make sure you give this notice in writing. Part of living on your own is having to pay your own bills, and rent is one of those fun bills to pay every month. Make sure you pay it and pay it on time. An additional fee is a security deposit. That is usually before you move in, and it's typically the first and last month's rent, but sometimes it's a flat fee. It just depends on the landlord. Do not pay your rent or do not pay your security deposit in cash. Always use check or a money order or Venmo or bill pay through your bank or something like that so that you've got a paper trail. That way, if a landlord ever says that you didn't pay your rent, you can prove that you did. If you have to live with someone and have roommates, just make sure that you have good roommates that won't bail on you, leaving you to cover all of the rent. And if you can't pay all of the rent, then you could possibly get evicted. As far as insurance, a landlord will have insurance to cover the building, but they won't have insurance that covers your stuff inside of the building. So there is something called renter's insurance. It's usually pretty inexpensive, and that will cover your personal property inside of the property. And so that is definitely worth checking into. Parties are fun. We all like parties, but just don't have one at your house. Things could get damaged in your house, and if you're renting, then you might have to pay for that when you move out. There also might be people there that are doing things that you don't necessarily agree with, and you could be ultimately on the hook for that. And even if you ask someone to leave that you don't want to be there, that's maybe doing something you don't approve of, and they don't leave, you can call the cops, but then you just invited the cops to the party. You can also possibly go to jail. Disturbing the peace is a charge police use for loud and rowdy parties. And the police might find things that you didn't know you were there, but now all of a sudden you're responsible for. Say somebody brings drugs or is drinking underage, and the cops come into your party, and now all of a sudden they see these things, and you could be responsible for that. As a renter, you have certain rights, and the landlord has certain responsibilities. Some of those responsibilities are that the landlord is required to keep certain facilities in good working order, such as electrical, plumbing, heating and cooling, ventilation, and water and sewer. If anything comes up with any of those, make sure to document what the problems are and contact the landlord by phone and in writing. So keep a trail of what the problem was, when you contacted the landlord, if they fixed it, things like that. As far as whether a landlord can enter your home or your apartment without you being there, they can in an emergency. They also can during normal business, regular business hours, if they have given you some sort of advance notice. But if there is no advance notice and there's no emergency and they enter your house or your apartment without your permission, then that is considered trespassing. As a renter, you also have the right not to be discriminated against. Under the Fair Housing Act, a landlord cannot refuse to rent to you based on certain criteria, and those are disability, your race, your national origin, familial status, meaning if you have children or you're pregnant, and they also cannot discriminate based on your religion. If you think that your rights have been violated by a landlord, contact the Intermountain Fair Housing, and they will work with you to investigate that. A lot of this information on lease agreements and renting property and all of that can be kind of overwhelming. There is a great resource available for free online. It's the Idaho Attorney General's Landlord and Tenant Guidelines, and it can be found right here on this website. And it pretty much answers any question that you can have, and it's explained very well. So if you have questions about this, I would encourage you to check that out. If you find yourself with questions and possibly needing the assistance of an attorney, there are a couple of different options. First off is the lawyer referral service. It's operated through the Idaho State Bar. You go to their website, you fill out some information, put in what kind of an attorney you're looking for. You pay a $35 fee and you get a half-hour consultation with an attorney in that field. Next up is the Idaho Volunteer Lawyers Program. You can visit their website and get more information on the program. Lastly is Idaho Legal Aid Services. Also visit their website and get more information on their program.